let's talk about the Niners' short turnaround, their Thursday night road trip to Nashville, Tennessee, in Nissan Stadium, the home of SummerSlam 2022 in July, against the Tennessee Titans. Yes, little fun fact there for you all. SummerSlam, yes, is going to be in July in Nissan Stadium in Tennessee. So a little fun fact for you before we head into this big Week 16 matchup to kick off the week. That is Week 16 between the 49ers and the Titans. So, both teams, they're coming into this short week, this short Christmas week. It's like the prelude. It's like the prelude of, this Christmas weekend. They're heading into opposite directions. Unlike the 49ers, the Titans, they're kind of going cold. They're entering that very cold fridge, but they just can't seem to reach that very cold lasagna, and they're getting cold as ice, and they're getting cold as ice, and it's been like this latest instance of being that is where they choked away a very winnable game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yes, a very washed ass Pittsburgh Steelers team, and Ryan Tannehill and that offense continue to stink up the joint. They continue to turn over the ball, and a lot of things going for the Titans right now. It's just not in their favor. And with each and every loss that Titans take, their chances of trying to win the AFC South, their division, it's continually running thin. And every win by the red hot Indianapolis Colts, they're peaking at the right time, by the way. It just increases their own opportunity to steal the division away from the Titans. Meanwhile, for the 49ers, they're red hot themselves. They've won, 5 of the last 6 now ever since week 10. And they're trying to continue to solidify their delusional playoff hopes. And they did so again in week 15 with a blowout win against Atlanta to secure an important tiebreaker to kind of solidify their stance as the 6th seed in the postseason. So for those wanting that backdoor entrance into the playoffs for the 49ers, you're getting one step closer for San Francisco. So this is yet another important game that the 49ers are going to face in Week 16 on a short turnaround on a Thursday night on NFL Network against the Tennessee Titans. So for the Tennessee Titans so far, they're heading into this game 9-5. They're not in a good stretch right now. They do lead the AFC South, but that lead has diminished greatly in the last month. They went from leading the AFC South by 3 games, and now it's down to exactly 1. And one more loss can make the Indianapolis Colts supplant them if they win out. So, the question becomes for Tennessee is how long will they maintain that lead in their division? Because, they started out 8-2. They at home to start the season, they got blown out by Arizona, and they lost to the New York Jets in week 4. So they were 2-2. But then they rattled off 6 straight wins. And during that 6-game winning streak, they swept the Indianapolis Colts in their division series. But in that second game in week 8 in Indianapolis, they would lose their MVP, their star running back, Derrick Henry. They would lose him to a foot fracture for at least the rest of the regular season, if not most of it. We don't know how he's doing right now, but it's likely he's not going to be available for them for the rest of the regular season. So initially, the Titans seemed like they would be fine without Derrick Henry. They beat the LA Rams on a Sunday night. Their defense had a really good performance behind Bud Dupree and a bunch of guys I can't really remember anymore. But the cracks would begin to form, especially on offense. They would struggle to string together consistency with their drives, especially behind quarterback Ryan Tannehill. But Tannehill wasn't always the flux of their problems because they've had issues with pass protection and the running game. without Derrick Henry. The receivers, their top two receivers in A.J. Brown and Julio Jones were not always available to them. And, during this stretch where, the Titans have gone ice cold, to counteract, to try to try to solve their issue of Derrick Henry not being there, they initially tried to do it by signing, veteran and I guess you could call him surefire Hall of Famer Adrian Peterson to the team, but that experiment miserably failed. It didn't result in anything positive for the Titans, so they cut him after 3 games. And now they were relying on a guy named D'Onta Foreman, who was previously a part of the Houston Texans. And so far, from what I'm seeing, it seems like he's a decent backup. He seems like a good fill-in for Derrick Henry. So we'll see how he does on Thursday night. But other than that, on the receiving end, the offense has struggled to stay healthy. Julio Jones has been in and out of the lineup. He was on IR up until last week in week 14 with an injured hamstring, and he recently re-aggravated that injured hamstring this past week against the Steelers, and who knows if he'll be back in this week against the 49ers, and I highly doubt he will, and I highly doubt he'll be back for the rest of the season. It's like this dude hasn't been able to stay healthy for a full season since ever. So meanwhile, they also have A.J. Brown, one of their top receivers. He's also missed games due to lingering injuries, and he's yet to return from IR. I don't think he will on the Titans' short week, so they probably won't activate him until at least the next week. So on defense, you got these acquisitions with linebacker Bud Dupree from the Steelers and cornerback Janoris Jenkins. I forgot what team he was came from. They got him in free agency and a bunch of others on defense. But the problem is it still remains one of their weaker points up until week 9. They still have their flashes, but they still give up in the secondary big plays, and they still give up points, a lot of them, and they allow their opponents to hang around for too long in general. And all in all, again, they still lead the AFC South, but again, they've immensely cooled off, and it's resulted in a 9-5 record. And it's become apparent that without Derrick Henry, the offense can't function as well without him, and it especially can't function when their top 2 receivers in A.J. Brown and Julio Jones are not there, and they're not playing fully healthy. And Ryan Tannehill, it's clear that he can't function properly when he doesn't have the proper pass protection and he doesn't have anyone he can trust to throw to. So they recently lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers in week 15, 19-13, and they were up at halftime 10-3, but they got shut out in the second half. They were scoring absolutely nada, and that was a result of terrible pass protection, the inability for Tannehill and his no-name receivers to produce, and self-inflicted turnovers that led to their downfall against a pesky Steelers team desperate to stay alive in the playoff race. So this Titans team has pretty much gone into the very cold fridge at the very wrong time. And, they already have the tiebreaker to the Colts because they got the season sweep over them, but I don't think it'll matter the rest of the way, because if they keep losing out and the Titans don't, sure, they have the easiest schedule the rest of the way on paper, but the way they're playing, I don't think it can happen for the Titans. If they keep losing, the Colts could sure as hell take that division lead right from them. And the Colts, honestly, with the way they're playing, their schedule seems more easier than the Titans. The Cardinals are struggling, the Raiders absolutely are dog shit, and the Jaguars, they're jag-offs, and they're too busy being all elite with the Cucks that suck. So I think the Colts have a better chance to win the division than the Titans do at this point. Meanwhile, for the 49ers, ever since week 10, they've been playing relatively good football. The secondary, they're still pretty like bad in of itself, but when it matters most, they make the big stops. The defensive line, though, they've been really good, especially with Nick Bosa and Arden Key leading that group. They've been getting at opposing quarterbacks, pressuring them, sacking them at a quality rate. And meanwhile on offense, they've just been pretty good too. And for as much as I trashed on him like all season long, Jimmy G has been playing all right football these last couple of weeks. Most certainly better than earlier in the season, where he was just like a turnover machine or just like a checkdown artist. I mean, sure, he's still a checkdown artist, but at least now George Kittle's healthy. Deebo Samuel's playing much better. Still playing lights out, and Brandon Ayuk is finally getting involved in the receiving game. And you got other guys stepping up too, like Jawan Jennings and Jeff Wilson Jr. So when you get guys involved, it helps Jimmy G. And the offensive line has their moments, but they've been pretty solid too. So when everything's going right for the 49ers, they've been playing relatively good football. So everything's been clicking, especially on offense, and they're helping out Jimmy Garoppolo. So everyone is doing their part. Most recently, they followed up their overtime win against the Cincinnati Bengals with a blowout victory over Atlanta, the Falcons, 31-13 at home. The defense played particularly well. I believe they were the real stars of the game. They made at least 3 stops against Atlanta when they were in the red zone on 4th down. Matt Ryan, I guess their team got really desperate to try to make something happen, but it didn't. They lacked the talent to do so, and they just couldn't capitalize on their opportunities. And the offense took apart a really bad Falcons defense too. You got good runs by Jeff Wilson Jr., and the offensive line played a big role in that too. Jimmy G got a lot of big chunk throws into George Kittle, Deebo, and Jawan Jennings all game long. So all in all, it was a key victory for the 49ers that they needed as they further staked their claim for the 6th seed in the postseason. And who knows, maybe they could get more if things continue to fall into place for them. Now for the keys to victory for both teams. For the Titans, you got to figure out a way to get to Jimmy Garoppolo. You got to rattle him. You got to sack him. You got to find a way to pressure him up front, get past that offensive line. The right side of the line still can be particularly weak for the 49ers. So whoever's edge rushing, whoever's generating pressure up front for the Titans, they can get towards him. On the offensive side of the ball, well, Ryan Tannehill's just got to find somebody to throw to. I don't know if they're going to get A.J. Brown this week from off IR, but I highly doubt it, considering it's a very short turnaround with 3 days, considering that there's no COVID bullshit. But nonetheless, Ryan Tannehill's just got to find somebody to throw to at this point, because his no-name receivers are not getting the job done. Also, you got to find a way to get the ground game going with Deontay Foreman. That pass protection, that run protection's got to provide him some open running lanes for Deontay Foreman. And speaking of pass protection, my God, protect your quarterback. That Niners defensive front is gonna kill Ryan Tannehill if Titans offensive line can't do their job. Now for the 49ers, you got to get after Ryan Tannehill. Nick Bosa and Arden Key were really good this past week against Atlanta. Now, I know that a lot of the guys, a lot of the focus is going to be on Nick Bosa and Arden Key. So other guys like Eric Armstead and Samson Mbunkum and others, Katavius Street, it's time for them to step up. In the event that they're able to contain Bosa or Key in this one. So other guys have to generate pressure up front and get past that pretty bad Titans offensive line. As per usual, Jimmy G has to have another good game, another consistently like mistake-free, turnover-free game. I mean, again, he's been pretty good these last 2 games, and against a Titans team that's that's I guess okay defensively. They seem pretty beatable, and like I don't think they can generate that many turnovers. So for Jimmy G, just take care of the football. Get to George Kittle, get to Debo, get to your guys, and let them take care of the rest. Speaking of your guys like Kittle, Ayuk, Debo, create some space, generate some running room, do your routes, so you can create some opportunities for Jimmy G to get to you. Plain and simple. And well, for the defense, just don't give up any big plays to Ryan Tannehill, especially on the secondary. Ambry Thomas has got this is a spot start for him. This is a smash spot for him. To hopefully get some valuable experience in learning how to shadow, learning how to cover against some no-name receivers in Tennessee. So for the 49ers, this is a beatable team against Tennessee, who's been cooling off at the wrong time, and they can play spoiler to them too. Like, yes, they're competing for a playoff spot in their own conference, but this is a chance for them. This is a chance for them to spoil the Titans' chances at clinching the AFC South, and kind of helping out their old friend in DeForest Buckner, I guess, in his team, in their chances to take the lead in their division, the AFC South. So, this is a beatable team. And in the Tennessee Titans, they're really flawed, especially without their king, Derrick Henry. So I'm going to go with the Niners on a short turnaround in Thursday night on the road. As long as they take care of their business, as long as Jimmy G plays a mistake-free game again, that defensive line gets to Ryan Tannehill, gets pressures and beats that putrid pass protection, then I think the Niners have a chance. I think they have a chance against a very beatable Tennessee Titans team. But what do you think? How do you think how this game will go? How do you think it will go on Thursday night? Obviously, there's still some injuries to keep an eye out on as the week goes on, but we'll find out what those injuries are heading into this Thursday night matchup.